Okay, we're back. We appreciate you sticking with us. And before we go into our program again, we're going to have a little commentary by Kwabena Pempe, who's a historian on Marcus Garvey. Go ahead, right ahead.
Thank you. And first of all, I say hope to Brother Grant and everybody that's on the panel. You're doing a wonderful job. We're speaking about black men who have been outspoken and how the media treat them. And I would like to speak about the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. I think he was the most outspoken person in our history, and that was driven out of this country by the media and by the United States government and foreign policies. One of the first things that had happened was that when Garvey came on the scene, one of the main reasons why that he was being driven out was because he was giving life he was breathing life into the black man, mind and body. He was at that time telling us to stand up and to be somebody. He was able to organize over 6 million people to work for themselves economically, to have people to even think of buying ships, stocks. I mean, today I don't see no big organization telling us about investing into stocks and buying ships.
That's right.
He was talking about owning your own businesses, your own farms. But more importantly, which one of the things that really set him really in fire with the powers that be was that when he was telling black people here, irregardless of your color, irregardless of where you come from, whether you come from Jamaica or whether you come from Mississippi or New York, you all have to stand together. And that Africa, okay, that 12 million miles of square land over there, that is the richest continent on this planet, that we need to take hold of it. And this shook up England. It shook up France. It shook up all those foreign powers. In fact, the Prime Minister of England at that time was in Washington and said that about Garvey's troops marching down the street. He said they may be marching down the street with broomsticks today, but tomorrow they'll be marching on English territory in Africa. That's but right. More importantly, he was putting in that spirit of self-esteem and self-economics. Now, also, we also got hit from within, our own people, and this is something that we have to deal with today. Because we are at times the biggest criminals of everybody else because we follow in the footsteps of this white man. And even though at that time he had organizations that now are more positive, are more nationalistic, but at that time many of our organizations at that time was against Garvey and set out Garvey must go. So they set out, the FBI was able to get its credentials. J. Edgar Hoover at that time was not the head of the FBI, but he made his name on Garvey. They trumped up charges on him, mail fraud, to even today that any particular law person can tell you that the child was never sent. But what I'm saying here today is that we should, as people, as African people, begin to boycott. Begin to start looking critical at all those people that are treating us wrong. If a newspaper is calling us in a negative way, then we should tell our people, stop buying the newspaper. Right. I know it's hard, because I come from New York, and I know everybody read the daily news. Right. And it took us a long time to get people, to half our people to stop buying it. But if we can get half of our people to stop putting their money where that they're not being representative, then we can definitely make a difference. And we can support our politicians and our business people and ask them to express our feelings. Because once these people know that the dollar stops, then they'll turn around and they'll really respect you.
Okay, we
I think you're
appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Do a follow-up point?
Yeah, quickly, if you will.
You had a book on the screen that you encourage people to get, Racial Matters, by Kenneth O'Reilly. Now, that book is about the FBI and its involvement in disrupting the Black Liberation Movement in the 1960s. And a lot of us don't realize that at that time, J. Edgar Hoover, who he talked about, during that particular time, they paid newspaper writers to put in certain stories. Not only stories that would present outspoken black people in a negative light, but sometimes even articles that would divide different black organizations. They planted stories to divide Malcolm X from Elijah Muhammad during that particular time.
Well, see,
so we need to be very aware of what goes on in the media.
Well, I agree. And we're going to get back to our point on affirmative action because that's what we were trying to concentrate on. But I agree that our diversity, you know, one of the things that I find that we have to do as an ethnic group is we have to stop focusing on individuals. You know, because the way we think today is not the responsibility of one individual. There are many contributors that have given their lives for us to be the way we are right now. And we've got to learn how to take this diversity and make unity out of it. And once we are able to do that, I think that we'll be able to stop being reactionaries only. And we have a guest coming up, but what I want to do, instead of holding the guests up, if you don't mind, both of you, and maybe next time we'll wait until we finish with the panel, then we'll go to our guest. But since you're standing there, I'll go to my guest and let you go ahead and make your comments, if you will.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Sure.
You know, my heart's cry every time I attend those kind of meeting and conference when I see intelligent people here, intelligent people in the audience speak so well and explain the situation and the problem in the community we're facing every day. When it comes to reality, the people in this country treat minorities that we don't exist here. And they tell us that we don't have enough education, we don't have enough brain, we don't know how to handle the business.
Excuse me, may I ask you why you're making these kind of statements? Because it's important that I think that we broaden this out. When you speak about minorities, are you speaking about immigrant minorities, or are you speaking about those of us who have been minorities all the time?
I'm talking about all the minorities all the time, African Americans especially, because I've been fighting for their issues for several years.
Okay, good.
And the key point I'm trying to bring it is every time if you see a minority goes or fail to do anything, he gets blamed for where he's from, his race. I mean, when I'm saying from means and his education. The question is, every time African American or majority minority goes into the business, he spends 16, 17 years, saves the money, learn about the business, and he goes into it. But the problem is majority of people has to realize it. In this country, there's a dual standard for who gets succeed and who get fail. A minority is doomed to majority fail when he goes into the white arena. When a white comes into the same business, he get guaranteed to be succeed and to get successful, not only to be successful when he start, but make sure he grows further over the years. And if you look at the African American or majority minorities, goes on the other side.
Okay. That's an interesting point. Did you want to make a comment?
That's exactly what happens in the television and movie industry. When you look at Jurassic Park, that movie had like $150 million budget. I know that was Steven Spielberg, and he's considered one of the giants. But that movie opened on something like 2,700 screens, okay? That is a whole lot. The average African-American film opens up at like 800. So that is the difference in why a movie can have $40 million in revenue in the opening week, and another movie have $5 million. Because like Boys in the Hood only opened up at like 600 or 700 screens, and the other white movies came out at 1,800, 1,900 screens. Plus, the African-American directors, their movies are going to get a $5 million marketing budget, and then the Schwarzenegger movies are going to get a $50 million budget. So
okay, let me do this if I might, because this is a concern of mine when we make these kind of broad statements about what's happening with us and you go from one extreme to another. The statistics are telling us right now that African Americans in the year of 1996 and 97, these independent years, we will be spending something like $500 billion, more than some nations of the world. But yet we can't support those things that we do so that we don't have to have these majority situations all the time. So we did a show about the same kind of concern where we were trying to, one of the guests was talking about teaching dollar sense, you know, these kind of slogans that we throw out. Well, how do we get to our people to teach our dollar some sense so that the money circulates more? And I'm sure that you're coming across these kinds of concerns because the contingency that went to Washington several years back when Reagan was in office, he told them, go back and tell your people to let their money stay in their community longer. We get paid and the money's gone, and we don't have any idea of where it's gone. So how can we keep blaming other people who come into our community to get this $500 billion? Can we blame people for that? Please.
Well, you know, that's an issue that the Legislative Black Caucus took on this year especially. We said civil rights, you know, but civil rights were more important because we had to have economic freedom and we had to start making money and supporting our own. So we've had a lot of minority business groups to come together and to work together.